The discomfort began during lunch. A group of us were huddled around the back corner of Miss Pittman's room, talking about the ins and outs of our lives. One friend, who we'll name Garrett, was telling me about one of his recent bench PRs he'd hit at the gym. Another friend was describing her tribulations and trials that she'd faced at Flair's practice that week. As we each made snarky or comforting comments to the experiences we each faced, the turn had come around to me. A sea of eyes silvered around, waiting to hear my story. I began, talking about my AP US history homework and the YouTube videos I'd watched that day. However, as I finished, I'd come to a realization. No one had been listening. I noticed the AirPods in the ears, the swiping of the phones, and the clicking of the keyboards. Although this moment was an insignificant one at the time, it is now a core memory of mine. Listening, or auditory perception, is an integral part of life. Whether it be jamming to your favorite music, listening to a boring history lecture for an hour, or even talking to your friends, hearing always provides the most important role. Hearing is a vital part of life that has often been obstructed by technology in recent times. However, through the practices of empathy and active listening, one can alleviate this. Especially in the era of technology, these two abilities are extremely important. The first topic I'd like to cover is that of interpersonal communication and the emotions and trust behind that. I want you guys to imagine a scenario. Think of someone important to you, a close loved one, a relative, a mentor, a teacher, it could be anybody. Place them beside you. Now, between the two of you, I want you to imagine, as shown in the slide above, a cup and string demonstrating a telephone. The closest of the string, the distance of the string represents the closeness between you and the other person, and in this case, you two are very close. As you begin talking, you'll notice that you'll become closer and closer, and often ending up in a fit of giggles simply due to the fun of it. Although this simple analogy may not be used to represent all interactions that you may have, it's a good baseline. In a research study conducted by Nicole Holderness and Matt Riggs on friendship chemistry, they analyzed 5 methodologies to determine what made a friendship close and secure. Of these 5, we're going to focus on 2 of them, reciprocal candor and personableness. In part 1 of the study, the 2 commonalities of I think my friend really understands me and I wish for the well-being of others had values of 0.98 and 0.81 respectively out of a scale of 1. These 2 showcase the relative importance of these 2 when establishing deep and personal relationships. In part 2, reciprocal candor and personableness were once again the 2 most important, with values of 0.95 and 0.9. This demonstrates the importance of active listening and communication when trying to form a deep and important relationship with somebody. The second topic I want to focus on is that of technology and its interactions with conversation. Devices of technology have been growing increasingly stronger in today's society, and the only way to counteract that is trying to find value through conversation. I want you to imagine the same scenario as above, but replacing the 2 cups and a string with a wired telephone. As you may notice, the wire is much farther apart and has a greater distance, which showcases a decrease in the closeness between you and the other person. This model can be further extrapolated to one where only cell phones are present, where the metaphorical connection between the 2 of you is merely non-existent. This can be shown through the vast influx of technology in recent years. In a study conducted by Statista.com, they were analyzing the revenues of the top 4 technology companies between 2000 and 2021. Each company had a revenue increase of nearly 10-fold within the 2-decade span, showing a large pump in volume of hardware to society. However, I believe that software, rather than hardware, is the most important proponent that is limiting active listening. In a study conducted by Dr. Gloria Mark of the University of California, she analyzed the average attention spans of people. In 2004, it was at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but this plummeted to 37 seconds in 2021. This shortening in attention span, along with the decrease in connection, has made active listening a thing of the past. However, not everything is as bad as it seems in the niche that we like to call friend therapy. Friend therapy is approaching a close one or a loved one with a tough issue that you're facing and resolving it by attempting to talk it out. In the past, I've been able to increase my relations with many of my friends through this, but the most important part to me has been able to practice my active listening and speaking. As a result of these interactions, I've been able to gain greater knowledge of their opinions and insights on certain things, while also being able to understand a variety of different topics myself. However, there are still detriments to this. If one places too much emphasis on another person, this could lead to a neglect of their own mental well-being and health. An overload of this could lead to detrimental long-term effects, including mental health problems, and in the worst-case scenario, a possible attempt to end one's life. However, as my talk mainly focuses on spontaneous and more carefree interpersonal communication, I will only mention this topic briefly. I'd like to end this talk with a personal anecdote from this year. In February, I was invited to attend and perform at Carnegie Hall on a 5-day trip, 3 days of which would be spent practicing and prepping for the final performance in Jones Hall, and the final of which would be celebrations and the ultimate performance. On day 2 of our rehearsal, things were going awry. The violas, as always, were out of tune, and the cellos weren't helping much either. The rhythm of the orchestra was completely askew, and Dr. Peltz, who you see up on the screen, noticed. As he combed his hair and he put on his glasses, I realized we were in for a talk. Picking up his baton, he began. You guys are each individually very adept musicians, but as a team, you guys are not where I want you to be. You guys simply aren't listening. I want you to lock eyes with somebody across the room, and once you do that, I believe you can play this piece. This doesn't only apply to orchestra. Listening makes you a better person. As I sat in the rehearsal room thinking, I scoffed. What could listening truly do for orchestra? What could listening truly do for my life? However, after a rehearsal, I realized where I'd went wrong. In my notes, I wrote down, I must include this in my speech. So if you see this, Dr. Peltz, hello from Texas. Going back to my point, listening truly makes you a better person, as Dr. Peltz says. If we go back to our first analogy that we presented, with 2 people and a string and a cup between you, now we can remove everything, the string, the cup, the wire, the cell phones. Now it is only you and your other important person, ear to ear, truly listening. Thank you.